Good evening and welcome to the Wakefield School Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We are observing our coronavirus protocol. In the studio here with me is the Superintendent of Schools, Doug Lyons. All other participants, including board members, are participating remotely from their homes. And with the meeting called to order, I would like to start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and as a reminder for the public, the way we have this set up, we're going to do things similarly to what the town council did last evening. Our members on the phone will have their phones on mute. When they wish to speak, they will send me a text, and then they can unmute their phone, and they'll be recognized by the chair when they have something to say. And that will be our format for this evening. I'm going to start with our mission statement as usual. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences to meet their individual needs and interests. The next section in our agenda is for public comment. We had asked that anybody that had any comment to send in, do it electronically to either myself or Mr. Lyons. We received only one, and I will read it. It is a little on the lengthy side, so bear with me. This comes from Mr. Dan Sherman, and he says, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to express my thoughts on your proposed budget for 2021. I am writing to you as just one member of the Finance Committee, not the committee as a whole, nor a member of the Finance Committee Subcommittee on Schools. Your proposed increase of 4.88% over 2020 is significantly more than our expected increase in revenue of 3.5%. Your budget increase percentage is substantially higher than almost all other departments. I expect that the town's total tax levy supported budget will exceed our income by about $900,000. We can manage that amount of extra spending for 2021 from free cash, but it is not sustainable. At these levels, I expect that the town will be running at a budget deficit of about $1 million annually. Normally, I am more optimistic about local receipts than our town accountant Kevin Gill and town administrator Steve Mayo. Not so today. We received close to $1 million from hotel and meals taxes. Due to the current virus pandemic, these tax receipts are going to drop to near zero for the remainder of this year. And 2021 does not look good. In addition, some of you may recall what the state did during the last financial crisis. They cut local aid in October, or 1 quarter into the fiscal year. A substantial portion of state revenue is based upon capital gains taxes. In that year, and this, capital gains were severely cut. The town and school department had no choice but to cut services and people. This compounded the town's fiscal struggles because it impacted our unemployment insurance in subsequent years. Therefore, I encourage you to consider reducing your budget where you can for 2021 and be prepared for potential cuts in your 2021 spending. And think about how you would handle a 0% increase for 2022. We are entering a very challenging times. Please be cautious on what you purchase. Thank you, Dan Sherman, Chairman of the Finance Committee. And that was the only public participation comments we had sent in. We are fortunate enough to have members of our Student Advisory Council on the line tonight. We have Adriana and Lily. Ladies, if you could fill us in on what's going on, how you're faring with all your this time at home.
Hello, everyone. Lily and I were planning to talk mostly about Learn Anywhere, and we both think that it's going pretty well. The teachers have been giving us work that takes about 30 minutes to do each time that class is supposed to meet. And I think most students are just trying to stay on top of the work, and teachers are really here to help us with anything we need.
Yeah, and another thing that teachers have been utilizing during this time has been, you've probably heard of it, the Zoom video conference. And a lot of teachers have been using this either to teach, say, a math lesson virtually, or a bunch of my teachers have been using the Zoom video conference just to check in on the students and see how they're doing with this kind of weird transition time. And I feel like it's been very effective, and it's been a great opportunity not only to see and talk to your teachers, but also to hear from your friends and other classmates who you maybe haven't talked to during this time. So that has been really effective, I think. And also, like I kind of just mentioned, teachers have been giving us work, but a lot of them have been checking in on our well-being, because as Adriana and I are seniors, this has been kind of tough, with all the uncertainty, not knowing when we're going to go back. So teachers have been doing a great job just checking in on us and helping us stay positive.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful to hear. It's very reassuring, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised that, we always have been very proud of our teachers and know that they do a great job for us. And it's just great to hear it from you.
Are you guys bored yet?
Yeah. Not really, not yet. Been getting creative with different things to do. Been taking a lot of walks.
Yeah. How about you, Adriana?
Definitely. Just trying to stay active and probably doing other hobbies besides doing work, just to keep busy.
Are you checking in with your friends?
Yeah,
Sure.
a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot of different FaceTime calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, FaceTime's been good.
And has that been going well?
Yeah.
How do you think
Definitely.
How do you think your friends are doing?
I think some people are taking it harder than others. I know I have a twin brother, and he plays tennis, so I feel really bad for the spring sports people. I know Adriana does a spring sport as well, so I'm hopeful for them that maybe they'll get to play their last season. I know that's been very hard for some of them.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's definitely for sure. I think just trying to stay positive and just do as much as you can from home and being away, but still keeping that hope up.
Any questions from the committee? Nobody's texted in, so. Okay. I really appreciate you ladies coming on and joining us tonight. It was a very pleasant surprise for me. I didn't expect that you were going to be able to do that, and you bring us some great news, and I'm very happy to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye now.
Good night.
Okay, we get some feedback.
That's okay.
All right. Moving on to our consent agenda. We're looking for a motion from Mrs. Purcell for a consent agenda, please.
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the March 10th, 2020 school committee meeting as presented.
Okay, looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. All our votes are going to have to be by roll call, and I was supposed to do a roll call attendance at the beginning, and I forgot. So, if Ms. Boudier, if you could do the roll call for the motion on accepting the consent agenda.
Okay. Mr. Markham?
Okay. Mr. Markham needs to unmute his phone. We'll come back. We'll come back.
Okay. Ms. Fortier? Yes. Ms. Veilleux?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes. Mr. Callanan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Yes,
and Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be a unanimous vote to accept the consent agenda. Thank you. Moving on to chairman's comments and updates. This format will be in place for the foreseeable future. I really cannot commend Mr. Lyons enough for the tremendous job he's doing with our staff and our students. The constant communications going out, his concern for the welfare of our most needy students, making sure that we have lunches going out, and keeping communication, keeping our staff motivated and engaged. He's really doing a yeoman's job there, and coordinating all his efforts with other town leaders. And we would not be in this great a shape as we are if it was not for all of Mr. Lyons' efforts. We had expected to have a transportation contract before us tonight, but it's not quite ready. Ms. Bufagna, could you just maybe tell us when we might have that?
Yes, so we went out to bid. We had a bid opening on March 2nd. We only had one vendor respond to the bid, and that was North Reading Transportation. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The 3-year contract, the first year, the increase is about 7%. But then the second 2 years, it drops down to only about 1%.
Okay.
I've given the specs to the town attorney to review, and he's going to compile the contract.
And how does that do those numbers coincide with what we had budgeted?
We're in line with what we've budgeted.
Okay. I don't seem to have any comments from the committee. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Mr. Callanan. First, thank you very much for the kind words. It's much appreciated. Yeah, and I think a great deal of those kind words also need to be shared with our teaching faculty and our staff that have been working very hard to learn different things and learn different techniques to be in touch with children. You know, one of the things that we're really trying to focus on in kind of the first 2 weeks of our closure is just really trying to figure out how to support students to participate in some type of learning activities every day, just to create some structure and kind of some predictability and routine during this very difficult time. So I can't thank the teachers enough for being creative, for reaching out with students. I had a conversation this evening with a parent who was talking about a kindergarten teacher that just called to check in with one of their students, just to hear, not necessarily about schoolwork, but just to hear how things are going. Several of our elementary teams have shared student work that they're doing. They have shared videos. They've shared pictures, and it has been really terrific. I want to thank our elementary principals. I also want to thank our middle school teachers. They too have been going above and beyond, reaching out to children to make sure that they're doing well and that they're checking in. I look forward every day, like I think many of our Galvin students, to morning announcements that come via video from the administrative team, Mr. Colantoni, Mr. Tetrault, Allison Hammer, and Aaron Ficacello, and kind of I love they have a guest celebrity on every day.
Oh, wow.
They salute the flag. It is really just a great way to start the day, and I appreciate the work that they're doing there, and I know that their teacher teams as well are really going above and beyond. I also want to thank, something I think that I don't know if a lot of people know about or hear about. So I want to thank our counselors and our special education teachers that have really been trying to reach out to students and families that need additional support. We know that Learn Anywhere was designed as a snow day program, which worked pretty well. It was not designed to replace full school days for weeks on end. So the fact that everyone has kind of jumped into this space and has really tried to just create some predictability in schedules for their students, tried to create some safe spaces for students to participate however they can, I think has really been our focus and our goals. And I think that, to be honest, I think we're exceeding our goals in that area in the first few weeks here. What's critical to kind of highlight, moving down my list, to when we're thinking about kind of this virus and school closure, we just got done week 1 of our closure. It seems like a lot longer because this is such a tenuous time and it's an anxiety-filled time. The news cycle is continuous. We just heard, as of yesterday, there were 777 cases in Massachusetts currently.
Up to 1,100 today.
They're up to 1,100 today. Oh boy. And so, we know that, everyone is doing their best to practice social distancing. I don't know if you watched the town council meeting last night. I think Ed Dombrowski, Chairman Dombrowski, and Town Administrator Mayo really hit home this fact that we really need to be vigilant about practicing social distancing at this point in time. And if we can at all work remotely, we must, right? We want to really work hard to try to flatten the curve. But the spread of the virus continues, and we know that in weeks coming up that things are going to continue, right? And we are expecting an announcement from the governor in the coming days, probably before week's end, where he may extend our school closure, and all schools in the state, for that matter, until the end of April. But we're looking forward to that word from him in the coming days. Other things that we continue to work on, we are collaborating with the Wakefield Food Pantry. They continue to be open their normal hours, Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I want to genuinely thank all of the families and students that have either volunteered or made donations to the Wakefield Food Pantry. We know that they've been a great source of service and relief for our families that attend the Wakefield Public Schools, so we can't thank them enough. We also want to thank the Boys and Girls Club and how they've supported students and families with meals. We too have our food service department working during this time. We are providing lunch for a number of families, and I can't thank Lisa Brown and Danielle Collins enough, as well as the cafeteria managers that have done just really amazing work. They've worked really hard to make donations to the food pantry, and they've also worked really hard to make connections to families that need help during this time. So thank you very much for that. In regard to Learn Anywhere, one of the things that we're talking about as time goes on, expectations may change. I got an email from a parent that reported, that asked the question, would I be kind enough to remind teachers that student work is not due until the day they return? That is one example of an expectation that we had when the program was set up for snow and being out of school for 1 or 2 days. Right now, we're not focusing on kind of getting in, high amounts of work, and we're not really kind of overly focused on grades and due dates right now. We just want to really support students to use technology to the degrees that they can, collaborate with their friends and their peers and their teachers and just participate in some type of learning every day. And as we move forward, we will work with families collaboratively to figure out the rest, right? When families have needed support for Chromebooks, for example, we have really worked hard to reach out to them, and we've worked hard to try to provide Chromebooks when we've been able to. So that's just a very quick update around some of the work we're doing with Learn Anywhere. I can tell you that on the administrative side, the Central Office Administration, Special Education Director Lynn O'Neill, Technology Director Jeff Weiner, and the entire executive team has kind of been working overtime with communication. Assistant Superintendent Caramaro has been coordinating work to support teachers with the curriculum coordinators, and everyone's really just been working overtime to just support learning outside of school at this point in time. And so I talked about our WPS meal plan. We will continue making lunches moving forward. We do want to look at how best to support the Wakefield food pantry moving forward. And one of the things that we're looking at is just how many meals we're making and what is the best use of resources moving forward. And so we're kind of going week by week, and we're assessing that, just looking at needs. So that's where we are in regard just to an update in our work. We will continue to try to get communication out weekly to families, and we're communicating with administrators and teachers almost on a daily basis. We are also communicating with the Commissioner of Education in Massachusetts, Jeff Riley. We're communicating almost daily with Tom Scott. He is the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. And we're also collaborating with all of the surrounding community superintendents as well. And so that's just a glimpse of some of the work that we're doing during the shutdown. So that's really it. I don't know if anyone has any questions that I haven't addressed that I might be able to answer.
I have not received any texts from members that wish to speak. Again, reminding the board members, if you would like to add a comment, just send me a text so you can be recognized.
I was just checking my phone to see if anyone sent a question as well, and I haven't gotten any at this point, so I can move forward.
Move along.
So, one of the things that we put on the agenda for this evening, just as a point of process, is to review any questions in regard to the FY21 budget, and also to have a vote this evening from school committee. Before we move forward, I'd like to just talk a little bit about kind of the budget and where we are at. One of the things that we've worked really hard on is to prioritize direct service in the classrooms. And one of the things that is highlighted in this budget are additional special education positions. And those positions are in the budget, and we are obligated to provide those positions to provide service that students need. And they are entitled to those services based on their IEPs and based on their civil rights. And so those are things that we have prioritized, or those are decisions that we've made to prioritize to keep students in district. So it's a philosophy that and statements that you've heard before around us working hard to develop in-district programming and to work collaboratively with Lynn O'Neill and her team to really work hard to keep students in district. And you can see from the budget that was presented a few weeks ago and that was discussed again last night at Town Council that we've come in under budget in regard to out-of-district placements. So that's a critical point to make. In regard to the 2 science positions that are being added, those science positions are prioritized for a few reasons. The first reason being that we know that students need a greater experience and more continuity in upper elementary in regard to how they are participating in their learning in science. We also know that teachers need some time to work collaboratively with one another on formative data. So we often get questions around, how do teachers work with formative data? When do they have time? The answer is they really don't. By prioritizing these science specialists, it will give teachers just a little time, not a lot, a little time, but it will also give students in upper elementary really the best opportunity to have a science experience that will set them up to go to the middle school and do well, not only in the science curriculum, but also on the science MCAS, which a new assessment will be rolling out a year from now. So we feel really strongly like this is a budget that puts direct service in the classroom at the forefront. And one of the questions that we received is, are we aware of, the potential for the economy to slide and for us to slide into the type of recession that happened in 2008 and in 2009. And that's what Dan Sherman was referring to in his letter. And I think that we are keenly aware of that, and we are working hard to be prudent in all of our decisions around the budget. And we will be working and meeting every week, and we'll be keeping the school committee and the finance and facilities subcommittee in the loop as we move forward throughout the spring and where we are and how we're closing out the year, but also how we're proceeding into next year as well. So, one of the priorities that hasn't changed for us is to create a sustainable budget year over year and to work collaboratively and be good partners and good stewards and be responsible for our part as part of the overall town financial picture. So I just think that those things are important to note before we take any questions.
Okay. So I don't see any questions. So if there are no questions from the committee, I guess we'd be ready for a motion from Mrs. Purcell.
Okay. Move that the school committee approve the superintendent's fiscal year 21 budget as presented.
And I need
Second.
a second by Mr. Flynn. Is that correct?
Tom Markham.
Tom Markham, okay. They didn't identify, so I want to be sure. So, okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Purcell, seconded by Mr. Markham to accept the superintendent's FY 2021 budget as presented. Roll call vote.
Mr. Markham,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Ms. Veilleux, Ms. Fair,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Mr. Callanan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn.
Yes.
Okay, so that was a unanimous vote. We will move on to FinCom and town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda. Are we finished?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Thank you so much.
The next item on our agenda is gifts, and we had a very nice surprise come in this week, and we have a motion to accept a gift.
Move that the school committee accept with gratitude a gift of $15,000 from Mark Trachtenberg to be used at the discretion of the superintendent during this coronavirus crisis.
Second.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded. Maybe the superintendent could elaborate a little bit on what happened with this.
Yes, Mr. Trachtenberg has 3 children in the Wakefield Public Schools. He got in touch via email earlier last week, and we connected by phone, and he shared that he would like to make a donation of $10,000 and to support the work that we're doing with families during this crisis. And, this level of generosity and the level of generosity that we've seen across the district during this time has really been inspiring. When we got his FedEx delivery of the check, I didn't open it. I left it for one of our admin assistants to kind of process. And when we finally opened it and looked at, he actually did not donate $10,000, donated $15,000. And so to Mr. Trachtenberg, I think, I speak for everyone in the Wakefield Public Schools when I say, that level of generosity and kindness at this point in time is really remarkable. And we will work really hard to provide our students with the help that they need with those resources. So thank you very much.
Okay. So that motion's been made and seconded. I could do another roll call vote, Ms. Boudier?
Okay. Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Ms. Boudier?
Yes.
Ms. Veilleux?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Mr. Callanan?
Yes.
Ms. Guida?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Okay, that would be a unanimous vote, and I agree, that's tremendous generosity. Really cannot be understated, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ms. Veilleux has a question for you. She texted me, and I'm waiting for her to respond.
Actually, I'll wait till the end, Chris.
Okay, all right. Subcommittee reports on finance and facilities. We're just really taking the budget through its process. And last night, last week, we had our public hearing. Last night, we presented to the town council. Tonight is a school committee vote. The next step is we see the FinCom on Thursday, and then it will come up before town meeting for approval, hopefully May 4th. Well, there's been no decision as to whether that date is holding or not, but so at this point in time, we should plan that it will hold. Labor and personnel, Mr. Markham.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So there has been no news since last Wednesday night, brief report when we met for the public hearing purpose. But those that may not have watched that meeting, we have what's called the tentative agreement that's been in place. The negotiating teams for both the school committee and the administration and Unit A had agreed to numerous points, collectively referred to as the tentative agreement. That process now needs to go. We, the school committee, need to have an executive briefing session and then a public session to discuss and vote. Before that occurs, the teachers union, Unit A, they must do the same with their membership. In the light of the coronavirus and all of the things that that are on hold and that need to be done sort of differently, Unit A is looking into how it can suspend or waive certain, some of their bylaw regulations. I'm not quite sure of the dynamic there, so I don't want to get into territory that is not really ours. But nonetheless, they are looking at how they could do that more expeditiously during the time when teachers are not gathered in a place. Once that has occurred, then the contract will be presented fully to the school committee in public session. So I would hope that between tonight and what is scheduled to be at our next meeting on April 14, I would hope that we would have a meeting probably in between there that would be an executive session to review the parts of the tentative agreement, discuss any strategic concerns, and any further points of commentary or negotiation, and then present hopefully the public terms at the April 14 meeting, if not the meeting thereafter. But right now, the virus is sort of putting some discretion on how that's to be handled with regard to how the total teacher body is going to react or be able to vote. But the good news is, after a year and a half, we have a tentative agreement that is, I think it's fair to say, on behalf of the subcommittee and the negotiating team, that it is fair, it is honorable, and it is in line with the values that we have for teaching and learning, as well as the theme that Doug has spoken about during all budget conversations around continuing to provide quality resources, as well as living within our means and within the sustainability over the coming years. So there is some really good news to be celebrated. I will certainly want to thank the other members of the bargaining teams for what has been a long amount of work, sometimes tiresome, sometimes frustrating, and certainly also reach out and thank the members of the teacher team, because I know that they had, just because they're on the opposite side of the table doesn't mean at all that they have opposite really goals or points of view with regard to the ultimate aim for doing nothing but the best for our students. So at the end of a year and a half, we're in a good place. That is that we should be proud of, that we can afford, and that we can sustain. So there will be specifics. We will need to have a meeting at the bottom line is we'll need to have a meeting prior to our next full meeting, and the goal would be to have a presentation at that meeting on April 14th.
Okay, just let me know when the vote comes back from the union that they've ratified, and we'll be ready to schedule.
Yes, sir. You'll be the first to know.
Thank you. Student services, Ms. Purcell, is there anything to report? Probably been hard to meet.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. And policy and communications, Ms. Veilleux.
Yep. So we had put some policies on the table for consideration at our last meeting. And so, Amy, are we doing this as one big vote, or are we voting on them separately? It looks like it's one big motion.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess so we're going to be voting on the acceptable use policy, which is 1106-E. If you guys remember, I kind of walked through that policy. There was a number of kind of language changes and some additional content that was included, but it generally looks pretty similar to what it has been. We just tried to streamline it a little bit and increase. Provide some clarity around some specific things around technology use. We also talked about the fact that included in that policy is the document that middle school and high school students and parents sign off on, and that we've created a more elementary focused kind of version of what needs to be signed off by students and parents on what's acceptable use for technology. But those aren't things that we vote on. We just vote on the policy, which is included. The educational opportunities for military children and educational opportunity are brand new, coming from the state. We've taken the language that the state provided, and that's what you had in front of you to review and that we'll vote on. The educational, the homeless students policy was updated based on guidance from the state, and the foster care policy actually was taken out of the homeless policy and made a separate policy. So that's kind of new as well. So we've got acceptable use, which was 1106. We've got military educational opportunities for military children, which is JFABE, which is brand new based on guidance from the state. JFABF, which is the foster care opportunities for children in foster care, which was kind of broken out from the homeless policy to make a separate policy. JFABD, which is the homeless students policy, which is updated with some additional language. And then the JBB, which is educational equity, which is a new policy, again, based on guidance from the state. Are there any questions about any of those policies before we make a motion to vote?
I haven't received any, Susie.
Neither have
Okay.
I.
So Amy can make the motion then?
Yes, please.
Move that the school committee approve policies number 1106-E, acceptable use, number JFABE, educational opportunities for military children, number JFABF, educational opportunities for children in foster care, number JFABD, homeless students, enrollment rights and services, and number JBB, educational equity, as presented.
Motion's been made. Looking for a second
Second.
by Ms. Fortier. Okay. Any further discussion, questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Ms. Fortier?
Yes.
Ms. Veilleux?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Mr. Callanan?
Yes.
Ms. Guida?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Okay. So it'll be a unanimous vote for all 5 policies to be incorporated into our policy book. Thank you for all that long, hard work. That was a big undertaking. I'm sure it represents at least 10 or 15 minutes of your time, and we'll go on from there. Future dates and agenda items. As Mr. Markham pointed out, we don't have a date yet, but we should expect an executive session sometime in the next week or so. And our next regularly scheduled school committee meeting will be on Tuesday, April 14th at 7:30. Expect it will be in the same format as this evening. Any school committee comments? Let me go down the list with Mr. Markham.
No, thank you, Chris. I guess other than to just to confer with or to agree with what you said earlier, congratulating the superintendent and the entire staff for being able to deal with this with this virus business, and to be able to do so with grace, with dignity, and with a great deal of humanity. Thank you very much for everything they're doing.
Thank you.
Ms. Fortier.
I have no comments, but other than to say, Doug, you and all of the people you lead are really have been extraordinary. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Ms. Purcell.
Yes, I would like to thank Lily and Adriana for participating in our meeting tonight. I just want to wish them all the best during this really difficult time, and I just want to thank them for being such wonderful peer leaders. And I also obviously just want to hope everyone in our town stays safe and healthy. And I would also like to thank Superintendent Lyons and all of the wonderful teachers and staff for doing such a great job checking in on our kids every day and keeping them engaged. It's really quite amazing to realize that in such a terrible crisis, everybody is pulled together pretty seamlessly, and I'm very thankful. And there's no surprise, everyone is professionals in our town, and I just want to make sure you all know that we're very thankful and grateful for the hard work you've been putting in.
Ms. Veilleux.
Thanks, Chris. I actually have a couple things that I wanted to say. One, I did not realize when was the appropriate time for me to make a comment about the budget, and so I'm going to make it now. So I wanted to just say that I really believe that the budget that Superintendent Lyons has put forward best meets the needs of our students and teachers as we have a evolving population here in Wakefield with our students. As you may or may not remember from our last meeting, Mr. Markham mentioned during that meeting that there were many things that were requested by the school leaders that were not included in the budget, that we prioritized the most needed positions that we thought would support students and teachers in the most direct and effective way. That said, I sincerely respect Dan Sherman's public statement at the start of this meeting. I believe that what Superintendent Lyons is recommending is balanced and fair based on our growing special education needs and to support elementary school teachers in the teaching of science, specifically in the 4th grade. But when you hear Dan's statement and the comment about revenue growth be expected to be at 3.5%, that is certainly lower than what I remember being discussed at the tri-board meeting back in October. I know that the growth being assumed by the Department of Revenue for our Chapter 70 funding is 4.3%. And so, we're in a difficult position for sure right now. I appreciate that things look very different than they did when our budget was built. I understand that the future is very uncertain. I know that the numbers are kind of moving around, and I want to recognize that. But with all of that said, I still feel like it was appropriate for me to vote in favor of the recommendation provided by Superintendent Lyons. So that's my comment on budget. And then I just wanted to make a couple of final comments. As Chris, as you said earlier, I just wanted to thank Doug and his entire staff for their tireless work over the past 2 weeks. It's pretty amazing what's been accomplished during this time, and it's truly kind of nothing short of remarkable. I personally am specifically thankful for the partnership that's been forged between the food pantry and the Boys and Girls Club to get food to families who need help. I also want to take a minute to thank teachers who continue to reach out to their students to create some sense of normalcy in this unprecedented time. And I did want to say, just as Doug had mentioned, a special thank you to the Galvin leadership team. The daily videos have been really fun to watch with my kids, and I particularly appreciated Mr. Cedroni's discussion today, which focused on self-care for our middle school students, and with a focus on balance between getting outside and doing homework and connecting with friends and getting fresh air. He just did a really nice job. He probably spoke for about 3 or 4 minutes today about kids needing to take care of themselves right now, which I thought he did a really, really nice job. So I just want to say thank you to kind of the teachers and central office for all of the work that you guys are doing. It is much appreciated by a parent of 2 middle school students. That's it from me, Chris.
Did you want me to respond?
I just wanted to say thank you for the kind words from everyone. I appreciate it.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes, I just wanted to have 2 comments, Chris. One, I just wanted to congratulate the Labor Subcommittee and the union's negotiating team for reaching the tentative agreement. I'm very happy about that. I know from experience the negotiations are very tough and a hard road to handle, and I'm glad that they were finally able to break through and reach an agreement. I'm very happy for them and thank them for all their hard work. And also I wanted to second, triple, whatever number I am now about the superintendent, his staff, and especially all of our teachers, and also the janitorial services who are doing so much work trying to keep our rooms, our schools clean and sanitized. And our teachers have gone above and beyond, and I'm very, very happy the district that we live in and how hard everyone has worked and how together everyone has come. It's truly amazing. So thank you all.
And Ms. Guida.
Hi, yes. I'm echoing everything everyone has already said. It's really remarkable to see from the top down, start with our city, administration, and all of the staff involved there, and that's goes down to every department in our town. Specifically, we're personally by and it has been such an honor and to watch our administration led by Superintendent Lyons and just really being a part of it all and understanding when we come together what we can achieve. Down to the teachers, so we are us as parents in school see firsthand their commitment to each and every one of the students, each and every one of the grades that they have. They're really adjusting daily to provide the best possible support, not only emotionally as well. And lastly, I want to thank our students. I'm so proud that on the challenge that we're offering them. Not every city right now is engaging in such work, and I really feel like they are stepping up. Members, like adult members of our society, in something that is alternative and offers a vehicle of consistency and engagement that helps us through times like these. So every with all of the challenges and the educational challenge that this brings to every family, you should be proud of yourselves and know that you are really now carrying information and flexibility that will help you persevere.
Thank you, Colleen. You were breaking up a bit there, but thank you. Ms. Bafagna, did you have anything to add? She might be going.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for the time you took to review the budget and the support of the budget. And we understand that this is a real tentative time for our financial concerns, but we're going through our audits right now. We're looking at all our revolving accounts, and we'll have a lot more to report in the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lyons.
So I think in my rush to report on all that was happening with Learn Anywhere, I missed a few things. One of the things that I failed to report is really the remarkable work that's happening with our high school teachers. I think you heard Lily and Adriana talk beautifully about the work that the high school teachers are doing just to really connect with their students to make sure that they're well socially and emotionally, but also to continue the work of teaching. So I can't thank them enough for that. I also want to thank Becky Lamar and Jen Thomas and Chris Gorski, who about a week ago got in touch and had asked if we could, just to give everyone a snapshot of the buildings. Everything's kind of cleaned and closed. And so, but they had asked if we could go back into the science labs and get personal protective equipment. The state calls them PPEs, so rubber gloves and materials that we can donate to hospitals. And we're going to be making a donation tomorrow of about 15 cases of rubber gloves to surrounding hospitals and to one of our Boston hospitals. So I can't thank them enough for that. That's going to really be a huge help during this time. So thank you, and thank you to everybody for all your work, and to the committee, of course, for your kind words and support.
Good, thank you. I was concerned coming into this meeting. It would be very cold and hard to work with, and I want to thank everybody for their cooperation. You've done a very nice job in a difficult situation, and all the uplifting information that we received. I mean, there were a lot of surprises there for me with the girls calling in and hearing how all their teachers are checking in on them, and trying to help them stay on a schedule by checking in during their class times. Little things like that to help them to normalize their life as much as possible. It's really nice to hear that all that's happening, because it doesn't get publicized, and I think it deserves a lot of credit. But with that, I would like a motion to adjourn, please.
I move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of March 24th, 2020.
Can I have a second? Second by Mr. Markham. All those in favor, Mrs. Boudier?
Markham,
Yes.
Ms. Fortier,
Yes.
Ms. Veilleux,
Yes.
Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Mr. Callanan,
Yes.
Ms. Guida,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn.
Yes.
Okay, with that unanimous vote, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.